Hello, horror fans, and welcome back to Sisters and Screams. My name is Gabriel, and tonight's story comes from Richmond, BC, a quiet city just south of Vancouver, built on the flat, mist-covered land of Lulu Island. If you've ever driven there late at night, when the fog rolls in from the Fraser River, you'll notice something strange about Richmond. The darkness feels heavier. The silence feels crowded. And according to one of the oldest paranormal accounts in the region, something there has been watching people sleep for more than 100 years. This story begins in the 1870s, long before Richmond became the city it is today. Back then, the land was mostly mudflats, farms, and endless marsh. In the middle of that isolation, a wealthy Englishman named Sir Edward Walter built a large Victorian hunting lodge. It stood alone, miles from the nearest settlement, just a tall wooden house surrounded by fog, wetlands, and silence. The house should have been beautiful. Carved staircases, colored glass windows, long hallways connecting rooms like a maze. But something about the place felt wrong. Sir Edward's new bride lasted only 3 months before she fled the house and returned to England. She couldn't stand the loneliness, or whatever else lived there. Soon after, Sir Edward abandoned the house too, and for years it sat there alone, waiting. Decades later, in 1916, a family named the Jones family moved into the lodge. At first, everything seemed normal, quiet, peaceful. But it didn't take long before the strange things began. The house made noises, not the normal creaks of old wood, not wind or footsteps. Slow footsteps moving through the stairwell in the middle of the night. Sometimes it would stop right outside a bedroom door. And then, nothing. Arnold Jones was just a boy when his family moved there. One night he was sitting in his room reading comics by an oil lamp. Eating food he had secretly brought upstairs. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Then he felt something. A strange instinct. The feeling that someone was standing just outside the door, watching. He turned his head toward the door, and he saw something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Under the door, through the narrow crack near the floor, something slowly slid into the room. It was the end of a walking cane. A brass-tipped cane. It moved slowly from side to side, as if someone on the other side of the door was probing the room, testing the space. Arnold froze. The cane slid farther inside, almost 2 feet into the room. Then it stopped, and slowly, it withdrew. When Arnold opened the door, no one was there. He ran downstairs and told his father, but his father found nothing. No footprints, no explanation, just silence. For a while, the family tried to forget the incident, but the house wouldn't let them, because Arnold wasn't the only one seeing things. His younger brother began waking up screaming. He said there was a man standing in the corner of the bedroom, watching him. A tall man, wearing an old-fashioned derby hat. And when the boy sat up in bed, the man would disappear. Arnold's mother saw it too. One afternoon, she was sleeping on the couch in the kitchen. She woke suddenly with a feeling someone was standing nearby. When she opened her eyes, a man was standing across the room, perfectly still, wearing a dark coat and a round derby hat, watching her. The moment she fully awoke, he vanished. But the most disturbing encounter came from Arnold's father. Late one night, he was heading to bed. The house was dark, only moonlight through the windows. As he entered the room, his bedroom, he saw someone standing by the window. A silhouette. A woman. He assumed it was his wife, until he realized she wasn't breathing. She wasn't moving, and her outline looked wrong. When he spoke her name, the shape disappeared. And when he checked the children's room, his wife was asleep beside them. After that, the family began noticing something even more unsettling. The presence in the house seemed to know when they were vulnerable, when they were asleep, when they were alone, when they were afraid. And most often, it appeared in the south bedroom. Always the same figure, always the same hat, always watching. Arnold later wrote about something even stranger. Some nights he would wake up suddenly without knowing why. And when he looked across the room, he would see the man again, standing there, still, silent, watching him breathe, waiting for him to fall back asleep. Over time, the family realized something terrifying. The man in the derby hat never walked, never opened doors, never made noise. He simply appeared, as if the house itself was projecting him. Years later, other residents reported the same thing. The same man, the same hat, the same silent watching, always appearing near bedrooms, always vanishing when they fully saw him. Some believed the figure was a ghost of Sir Edward Walter himself. Others believed something else had taken the house long before he built it. Something older, something that didn't belong to the living. Eventually, the house was demolished. The land turned into parking lots and new development. But the story didn't end there, because strange reports continued. People who lived near the old site began describing something unsettling. They would wake up in the night with a feeling someone was standing in their room, watching. And sometimes, just before falling back asleep, they would see a shadow in the corner, tall, still, wearing a round hat. And there's one detail that makes this story especially disturbing. Because Arnold Jones later wrote something he never told his family while living in the house. Something he kept secret for years. He said that the man in the derby hat never looked directly at him, not once. The figure always stared slightly downward, toward the bed, toward his chest, toward the slow rise and fall of his breathing, as if it wasn't watching him, it was listening. So tonight, when you go to bed, when your room is dark, and if you live in Richmond, and your breathing is the only sound you can hear, remember the story of the man in the derby hat. Because if a house can hold a presence for over a century, there's no telling how far that presence can travel. And if you ever wake up in the middle of the night with a sudden feeling that someone is standing in the corner of your room, don't sit up too quickly. Don't look right away. Just listen. If you hear breathing that doesn't match your own, you may not be alone. And if you see a man in a derby hat standing perfectly still, watching you sleep, do not blink. because the people who blink are the ones who say he moves.